Let's go to the United States now, where Republicans have won the House of Representatives after last week's midterm elections. And the result gives the party the power to block Joe Biden's agenda for the final 2 years of his presidency. But Biden's party, the Democrats, maintained their narrow Senate majority, dashing Republican hopes of controlling both chambers of Congress.
Victory for Republicans who have taken control of the U.S. House of Representatives. But with the win narrow and their majority slim, legislating and governing could prove difficult. Power in Congress is now split, with Democrats in control of the Senate. U.S. President Joe Biden signaled his willingness for cooperation, stating, "I congratulate Leader McCarthy on his House majority and am ready to work together for American families." Republican House Leader Kevin McCarthy is tipped to become House Speaker, one of the most powerful positions in Washington. Ahead of the House win, the congressman from California won the nomination from his party.
I told you we'd get back. Just took a little while. Well, good evening. I'm proud to announce the era of one-party Democrat rule in Washington is over. Washington now has a check and balance. The American people have a say in their government. And this new Republican leadership team is ready to get to work to put America back on the right track.
That track will likely include trying to cut government spending and tighten border security. McCarthy has vowed to investigate the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan and the finances of the president's son, Hunter Biden. Republicans now have the power to oppose the president's agenda for the final years of his term. But the president also has a veto over legislation proposed by the Congress. House Republicans will also have the next presidential elections in 2024 in mind when it comes to their legislative decisions. McCarthy is close to former President Donald Trump, who has just announced his bid for a second presidential term.
America's comeback starts right now.
But with many Republicans blaming Trump for the party's worse-than-expected performance in the midterms, McCarthy may want to put some political distance between himself and the former president.
And I'm always very pleased to welcome Stacey Bivens into the studio for analysis. Stacey, put this into perspective for us. How much power have the Republicans gained by getting a majority in the House of Representatives?
Well, I guess it depends on what they've learned from this election. Independents and young people broke hard for the Democrats. They care about abortion rights. They care about the environment. They care about democracy. And so as in this piece that just aired, we heard the talk of an investigation of Hunter Biden. Well, that's a loser for a lot of voters in the U.S. They want to know how they're going to be able to pay for food, how they're going to be able to pay for gas. And so these kinds of issues are a loser for the Republican Party. And just to be clear, there were so many candidates who were presented by Donald Trump, where they were relitigating the 2020 election and where they were talking about these culture war issues. Voters said, enough. We want to see people work together to make America better.
But are Republicans united on this issue? They have a majority, but it is a narrow majority. It was a narrow victory. Do you think the party will be able to unite to get its policies passed?
The problem is the majority that they have is so slim that it's almost a win for the Democrats. And so let me just play this out for you. Yeah. So we have the Republicans, and they're split. Half of the party supports Trump, and they have a more of what people feel like is a hardline view. And then you have other people who say, you know what, the Republican Party has gone off course. So it's going to be harder for the Republican leader in the House to get his team together. The Democrats are mostly united, especially in the House. But with the Republicans, it's going to be a harder task.
Right. And what will this then mean for President Biden's legislative agenda?
Well, he's made it very clear that he thinks that what he's done in the past 2 years is a win. And so he wants to keep going with that. But of course, he's going to have some roadblocks because of the way that this has played out with the legislature going to the Republicans. But like I said, it's not an easy victory for the Republicans because they don't necessarily have the numbers because they don't have the unification.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, now that Biden, the Democrats won't control both houses of Congress, do you think it's possible that we will see the president focusing more on foreign policy, which is traditionally an area where the executive branch has more power?
Sure. I mean, he wants the U.S. to be a leader when it comes to the climate. And so, yes, he wants to be able to show that the United States is a partner that their foreign allies can depend on. So that's something that he's definitely going to be pushing for in the months and years ahead.
All right. Thank you so much for that. That's Stacey Bivens with our election team.
Good to see you, Claire.
For more, I'm joined by Boris Forman, a professor of politics at Bard College, Berlin. Boris, put this into perspective for us. How much power has the Republican Party garnered?
Well, now what we're seeing after 2 years of united government is a divided government, which means that basically, we heard this, budgetary questions cannot be decided very easily. We saw that in the first 2 years, even with both chambers in the hands of the Democrats, it wasn't easy. But now, of course, the Republicans, if the past is any indication, will probably have a very destructive agenda of trying to undermine any legislative agenda that Biden might still have.
How united are the Republicans, though, in trying to undermine the Democrats?
Well, I mean, laws are made in Congress. The Senate is still with the Democrats, but Republicans will not, or probably it's very unlikely for them to join in any legislative proposals. I mean, we saw one exception just 2 months ago or 3 months ago, the CHIPS Act, which was mostly about protecting manufacturing at home. We also saw some bipartisan proposals when it came to the tariff conflicts with China. So in military questions, foreign policy questions, economic questions, who knows? Maybe there might still be something on the agenda that might work. But it's quite unlikely because the presidential election 2024 is coming up and the Republicans will try to portray Biden as a weak president.
What about foreign policy? That's usually something where even a lame duck president can have more room for maneuver.
Right. I think this is there are two dimensions to this. One is as you say, the foreign policy dimension, where we'll certainly also, given the historical moment and the war in Ukraine and the shifting tectonic shifts in global relationships also with China, we'll certainly see more of that by Biden. And at the same time, I think we'll see more executive orders at home. This is something that Obama had already done against a Congress that was also trying to block all types of legislative proposals. And Trump himself as well has used many executive orders. It's become the tool of choice in a heavily polarized political society.
And he's also announced his plans to run for president. Boris Forman, thank you very much for the analysis.